Good morning. You can hear a pin drop. How are you? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good to see you. How are you? Thank you for appreciate it. I already got you, Russell. Thank you. Guys, appreciate you being here today. Say what? Makes it a little bit easier. Sorry, I'm going to make things more complicated, but it's wonderful to be with you here today, and I certainly am so grateful to see some of our partners as they were working to really address the food insecurity issues we're facing here in West Virginia. I want to start out by recognizing the Guard and the amazing work that they're doing. These guys are unbelievable, and it makes a big difference for the state of West Virginia. So thank you to everyone here today and everyone who's been working around the clock. I also want to recognize Step by Step and Michael Farmer. Where's Michael? Appreciate your partnership as well, and the partnership of all of the food pantries. I see Caitlin, you're here. The food pantries and the food banks across West Virginia. You're making a real difference in the lives of people. I've said at the very beginning that we're not going to let West Virginians go hungry. Let everyone else politic and do their nonsense, but we're always going to be out in front of this. We run the railroad, we're going to do things the right way, and we have good partnerships, and we look out for West Virginians, period. And so we're going to talk more about what that means today. You know, we're very fortunate to be here and update people what's going on. But I will tell you, there is a way that all this can come to an end. Chuck Schumer and Democrats in Congress, they can stop this. They can bring the government shutdown to an end. I fully expect that's going to happen because of the elections that are going on in Virginia and New Jersey today. We anticipate that they're going to come to the table quickly. We're also going to address some of the news with respect to the loading of the SNAP cards and what we're hearing. Now, last week I mentioned that we had pledged a total of $14.1 million to fill in for the shortfalls for SNAP benefits. We've already distributed $8.6 million of that. That's in the hands of the food banks. A lot of those resources have already been shifted to the food pantries as well. As you guys know, we started to look at this from a week-to-week perspective and a day-by-day perspective. 1.1 million accelerating the dollars that the legislature had put in. Another 5 million through our contingency fund distributed to the food pantries last Wednesday. And then on Friday, another 2.5 million went out the door. We've been monitoring this very, very closely and in collaboration with all the food banks and food pantries. Here's the good news. The money that we put out is covering the immediate needs of the food banks and the food pantries, and also the anticipated needs in the upcoming days. That's good news. We've asked that the food pantries spend those funds locally with producers, grocery stores, and retailers. We know that a number of West Virginia businesses are missing out on some of the regular sales through the SNAP program, and this influx should help fill the void. That also means that shelves get to stay stocked and families receive the food they need while waiting for the federal government to come back online. Now, all this was done in preparation for the first weekend without SNAP benefits for our citizens. I think the work that's being done combined by the food pantries, the food banks, our churches, what they're doing, our Guard, it's making a big difference. It's direct, it's fast, and it's ensuring we're staying ahead all the time. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to let people go hungry. Now, with the funding in place, and we're in a good position now, our next challenge was the logistics. How do you get food resources to those who need it most? And let me tell you, this wouldn't have been possible without the Guard. They've been on the ground providing logistics, management, and support to food pantries across the state. They're helping to receive, sort, package, transport, and distribute food, and keeping things safe and orderly. I'm told that there was one guard unit that was even diverted from its mission to assist at the scene of an accident recently. And there was a fatality at that accident, but the guard helped put out the fire and manage the response. We see that kind of dedication every single day with these amazing men and women, and West Virginians are very, very proud of you. As of this morning, the West Virginia National Guard has 202 service members supporting the mission. So far, they've delivered 6,653 boxes of food to food pantries throughout the state. They've supplied another 3,936 boxes directly to citizens at pop-up food pantries. They've delivered checks. They've helped with a lot of logistics. And they've even established 20 of these pop-up pantries around the state. If you have issues with food, if you have questions, please call 211. This is an appeal to people. Reach out. There are resources available. We're not in a situation where there aren't. Don't believe any of the arguments people are raising. We're ahead of the curve. We're going to remain ahead of the curve into the future. They've also dedicated over 1,000 manpower hours to the mission, and they've driven more than 6,900 miles. That's probably old information. As we get new information, we'll relay it to you. General Seward is doing a great job, and you should be very, right, General Seward, you should be very proud of the work of your men and women. Now, we know that when we announced the resources that were available for the state, that we were going to make sure, I said I fully expect we're going to be spending that 13 million plus the 1.1. I fully expect that's still going to be the case. We know that there are estimates of it costing overall 1.5 million a day. But by putting out the 8.6 million out in front, that made a huge difference. And we're going to continue to do that. I'm going to mention in a moment some future steps to stay ahead of the curve. But we're also asking for the public support. The state is stepping up to solve problems that a dysfunctional Washington has led us to. And I think we're getting some great support. Across West Virginia, churches, civic groups, and businesses are stepping up in a lot of ways. I can report that as of this morning, we had at least $300,000 in donations combined with Facing Hunger Food Bank and Mountaineer Food Bank. We also have additional private sector contributions of in-kind. Mountaintop Beverage pledged to donate over 55,000 cartons of milk. That's a lot. Another great example, there's going to be a truck tomorrow filled with over $50,000 worth of fruit and vegetables from a company called R4. That's coming in. That's 300, based upon preliminary estimates, that's probably over $400,000 in terms of direct contributions and in-kind. People should be very proud of that. But we need to keep going, and I'm asking everyone, if you're watching this right now, look at the QR code, help a little bit. Your state is stepping up. We've activated the Guard, we're contributing, and we're ahead of the curve. That's what we do. But you can help us. Every time we get more resources, it stretches our dollars just a little bit more. We're seeing a lot of neighbors coming together and helping their fellow citizens. And I can say every dollar certainly counts. So thank you for what you've done, for what you may do in the upcoming days. And once again, make sure you know you can donate through the QR codes that a lot of the media are showing. And if you need help, please call 211. Now, I know we're watching the situation daily, and we're coordinating with food banks, and we're ready to act at a moment's notice. I'm getting updates every single day, and we had transferred that money, that extra $2.5 million on Friday, just to make sure we were safe for the weekend, right? We're trying to be prudent about it. And now we're evaluating, and we're getting reports that, at least from where we are now, we're not seeing the shortages. If we hear about it, we're going to run to the fire. We're going to run to the problem. We're going to make sure they have resources. We're going to make sure that they have coordination to do the right thing. I believe, though, in the next few days, we're probably going to have to activate the next $2.5 billion that we've talked about, which would get us over $10 million. I fully expect that because while we have heard that the SNAP cards are going to be turned on relatively soon, they'll be turned on, not at the full benefit. So I'm going to continue to make sure that people have the food they need, and we're going to accelerate the monies to get ahead of it. If I determine that after the 14 million, we need more resources, I will call the legislature back into session, and I will ensure that West Virginians don't get hungry. Period, full stop. Don't let people tell you otherwise. I know there's a marketing campaign on the other side saying that, but it's important for people to know the facts that are on the ground. That's what we're dealing with. So we're going to evaluate today and tomorrow, and probably come back on Thursday to decide, is that the day we transfer? But I fully expect sometime before the end of the week, there'll be another transfer of $2.5 million. If we get information that requires more, we'll step up and we'll do more. And then once we get to that 14 million, if we need to call the legislature, we will. Those are the facts, and I think that it matters a lot. I want to assure West Virginians we have your back. We're going to make sure that no one's going hungry. So we're busy doing a lot, and we're doing it as a team. Team West Virginia is stepping up. The food banks, the food pantries, our churches, our citizens, our guard, and your governor's office, everyone's stepping up. And I also want to thank the leadership of the House and the Senate, because I have talked to them about this, and I said, there may be a time where I have to reach out to bring the legislature back, but we're going to do it based upon up-to-date information, right? And that's what we are doing. So we're being responsible actors to protect our citizens. So I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of incredible work that everyone's doing, and I'd love for General Seward to say a few remarks about the role that the Guard has played in this successful effort so far. General Seward?
Thank you, sir. Good morning. As I said last week, the Guard is always ready and always there. A week ago, we started calling our service members to activate some of them to come on to this mission. Not a single employer across West Virginia objected. Every Guard member that we requested was able to leave their normal place of employment and come serve West Virginians. That says a lot about the commitment to West Virginia businesses, or on behalf of West Virginia businesses. And I want to thank them today, as well as the amazing men and women of the West Virginia National Guard. They didn't just show up. They all showed up knowing what the mission was. I've spoken with them across the state this weekend. I was at mobile food pantries in Roane County and Clay County. Our service members were on the ground, dedicated to making sure that there wasn't anyone that left that site short of food. We had incredible demand on Saturday. It slowed down a little bit on Sunday. Some locations we actually had boxes left over, and we left them with either a local emergency manager to hand out or a fire department. The first responders, the emergency managers across the state have been incredibly helpful. We've had, as the governor mentioned, we've seen a plethora of businesses and individuals and churches stepping up. And I want to thank the food pantry volunteers across the state. Yesterday, we were electronically visiting with 650 food pantries, received a tremendous amount of positive information from them. Each day there are just a few food pantries reporting that they need more food, and they're reporting that through the food banks. They're then requesting our assistance, and we're delivering food across the state. We have a great deal of food in our warehouse staged and ready to go in reserve. So from the food banks, and again, we're working with them. If we get a call from them, we then dispatch that, or we dispatch food immediately from one of the food banks. As of today, we're planning for pop-up pantries this weekend to make sure that if there's a gap in coverage somewhere, that the Guard is there. We know that Monday through Friday, the incredible volunteers at the food pantries across the state are meeting the need, and we have their they also need a break, and not all of them are open on the weekends. Working with the food banks, we can figure out which counties there may be a gap in coverage, and we will attempt to have a food pantry pop up in each of those counties this weekend. As the governor mentioned a whole host of statistics. What I'm incredibly proud of is the 7,000 miles that we've driven as of last night, accident-free. It's incredibly important to me that every one of these service members that steps up gets to go back home to their families and their employers safe. So that's part of our focus. If you see on Facebook or you hear that there's a delay at a pop-up food pantry, it may be because we're at an accident scene. There's usually a very good reason. If we don't show up on time, there's usually a very good reason. We'll continue to execute the mission as directed by our Commander-in-Chief, Governor Morrisey, and I anticipate that we'll see continued need until these cards are fully turned on and operational, and until then, we'll continue to press on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General, and thank you to the National Guard and to everyone who's contributing to the many efforts across the state. I'd now like to give Michael Farmer a chance to come in. He's doing a lot of work on the ground. I think it'd be great to hear his perspective. Michael, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This is a church, y'all can say hi, and we can talk back and forth to each other a little bit. I'm Michael Farmer. I do serve as the CEO and Executive Director of Step by Step. I also have the privilege of being the pastor here at Risen City. And I'm beyond thankful for the opportunities that we've had to partner and continue to do this work within our community to help those who are most in need. I'd be remiss if I didn't make some acknowledgments as I was making some calls yesterday. One of our gentlemen across the street, Aaron, he called me in the morning. As soon as I walked in, he goes, "The National Guard's here." I was like, "Why?" I was like, is something broken? Is there a hazmat? Somebody stole gas from my truck a couple weeks ago. I thought we had a chemical spill. But it was so encouraging that they hand-delivered the checks to us to be able to go out and to make a couple of runs and get the food that we needed to replenish our pantry. So we want to make that acknowledgement. Thank you, Governor Morrisey, for the funds that you are providing. Thank you for the National Guard. Our step-by-step crew, Tasha Gibson, she is in Logan County, where we have 10 after-school program sites. We have our family support center, the pantry that is there, integrated services, helping kids and families day in and day out is amazing. Miss Tammy Bowling, she is in Lincoln County. She is our Lincoln area director. She was speaking this weekend. She was speaking about this weekend how they fed, I think, 90-some persons at the Big Ugly Community Center. If you don't know where that is, we'll let you know. We'll get you some directions. We'll do a field trip out there. But it is meeting the need of Southern Lincoln. And we were discussing yesterday about how we will be in Hamlin and all across the area to meet the needs of those who have the most need. And Mr. Brennan in the back there, he's hanging out. He is our Kanawha County Family Resource Center director, and he runs the pantry and other resources across the way. And Mr. Doug Walters, one of our board members, Miss Ashley James, she is our chair of the board, and Mr. Chris Price. We can't do this alone. And I know that in struggling and stressful times, many people have different responses. And I want to take a moment as a pastor, if y'all will allow me to. We'll pass the plate afterwards on this message. But I want to share a verse that helps me out tremendously in troubling and stressing times to remember to be thankful, to remember to honor those who are in authority and working, and how we can collectively work together to help those who are most in need. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, it says, "Therefore encourage one another and build one another up just as you are doing. We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor amongst you and who are over you in Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work, because be at peace amongst you all. And we urge you, brothers and sisters, to admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, and help the weak. Be patient with one another, and see that no one repays evil for evil, but always seek the good for one another and to everyone. Rejoice and pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus." Church, can I get an amen? So what does this look like when the funding comes through? Well, I believe it's good for us to recognize that if you stay ready, you'll be ready. You don't have to jump into a crazy response. But as we have received the funds from the state, we were immediately able to go out and say, let's go ahead and help those who are most in need through a network of our after-school programs, working with all of our counties in Lincoln and Logan and Kanawha County with our Board of Educations, our principals. I called Miss James yesterday and was letting her know about this event and meeting, and she was already cooking a meal at Piedmont, staying after hours. My daughter came home with spaghetti from the after-school program. So our goal is that as we continue to receive these resources, we want to be the persons who are able to help facilitate this across the state. We see this through the relationships with our food banks and our food pantries, the continued communication, and we look forward to being persons that can help and encourage those who are most in need, not just in times of what may feel like chaos, but in the normal times also. We're West Virginians. We don't wait for somebody to respond. We respond immediately. And this is how we will continue to do this work here at Step by Step. Thank you all.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Michael, and thanks for allowing us to come here today and to show this wonderful effort of West Virginians coming together. I now want to just be able to say that we're at the place in the event where I'm happy to take any questions from the media. Obviously, we'd like to focus on food-related issues, but feel free to ask any questions. Stephen or Amelia?
Well, yeah, Governor. Specifically, we know that the SNAP, the judge did say that there's going to be a partial payout of SNAP benefits from that $5 billion contingency fund. I know USDA is supposed to send out some notice and revise the issuance tables to DOH and of course similar organizations across the country. Do you know if we received that? Do you know if there's a timetable for how long it would take for them to turn that back on, for those funds to flow into our system? And obviously those benefits have to be recalculated. Do we know what the total would be that we would receive partially in regards to
So
that?
we don't have those exact amounts. I've been told that right before I came over, they had some instructions that were sent over from USDA. So our Human Services Department is unpacking that right now. Obviously, the most recent news is that 50% will get loaded. There's no clear date in terms of exactly when that would start. The estimates that I have been provided over the last week and a half is that it might be between 4 and 7 days to get the system operational again. But I will say this, I'm going to press that vendor really, really hard because I want this to, people can move, they can work through the night. He was talking about hungry West Virginians. I want the vendors to be pushing very, very hard. I'm going to keep challenging them to do everything they possibly can. And so as I learn more information, I'm going to let you know. We're monitoring this day by day. We did get that, and our team is unpacking that. And our team has been ready, quite frankly, to receive those instructions and that information. And we have teams kind of standing by so we can do anything on our end and then work to make sure the vendor is doing what they do on their end so we can turn this around very quickly. But we know that resources are available now. We know that it's estimated to be approximately 50%. So let's get that turned on as quickly as we can. But this is why I continue to emphasize we're going to monitor it day by day and why we're signaling we're going to be transferring another $2.5 million to get over the 10 million mark, because I am never going to get behind on this, ever. We're going to get out in front and we'll get over 10 million. And as we keep getting private sector support, that stretches the days. And then obviously if you have a 50% contribution, that stretches it even more. But we'll be assessing later this week and next week whether we still have to do more than that. But the most important thing is West Virginians are not going to go hungry, and we're going to be on top of this. Anna.
What kind of indicators are you looking for to say, yes, definitely we've got to bring the legislature in?
Well, a couple things. One, we've been having many conversations every day with the food banks and with the food pantries, and the Guard has been fanning out across ways, so we're getting real-time reports about what we're hearing. Plus, we're monitoring the 211 number in terms of how many people are calling in and trying to deal with every need. Look, over the weekend, I was getting messages and people reaching out to me, and I'm feeding that to the Guard. There are people that are in need. We're going to get on top of that. So a lot of it is working, assessing, talking with the community. That's why we have over 200 people in the Guard that are very involved to facilitate the logistics. So I think between the Guard, the community, the churches, the food pantries, the food banks, and the public at large, I think we have a good system in place. And as we hear things, we're going to act, and we're going to make sure we're helping fellow West Virginians. And where are you from? What media?
Duncan Slater on State Spotlight. The general talked about the incredible demand and just all of the things that you all are doing. Do you believe that this course of action is sustainable in the long run?
No, the government needs to open up, right? I mean, there's a swift way to put an end to the shutdown. And so what we're doing is the state stepping in to solve, a Washington dysfunction, right? So we're doing that, and West Virginians are stepping up. But I think we all want the shutdown to come to an end. But we are going to make sure that we're doing our part. But I've always said that you can't have the state take over all these big federal programs. It's just not sustainable long term. But what I've also said is we're not going to let West Virginians go hungry, and that's why we've stepped up. And through by Thursday, we expect we'll be over $10.1 million. And as I said, we're going to keep going. We know that through the accounts that we've had in place, we think we get up to the 14 million. We're going to keep looking around for more. I think we're going to know more later today or tomorrow in terms of that 50%, what that looks like, how it may impact the needs out there, and then we'll report that back to people. But as I said, most importantly, people won't go hungry. We're always in front of this. Appreciate it. Amelia, how are you? Good.
I read last night that the governor of Maryland has decided to fully fund their SNAP benefits. And based on the research I did last night, they used Fidelity, the same company we use to process our EBT benefits. And I read through the Trump administration memo, which said Fidelity can't accept contingency funds. So have you considered funding the rest of SNAP to bring those benefits up to 100%?
So a couple things. One, we're going to make sure that there's no need. We're going to make sure that people are not going hungry. So based upon the information we had, our vendor was having problems doing that. It was not feasible. That's the latest that's been provided to us. Look, I don't know about how the Maryland system is working, what they're doing, but I can say this: we're going to have resources that are available. We're ahead of the curve. If by say Thursday we're at $10.1 million, and if there's need for more, we're going to make sure that that's available. But it doesn't make sense to say we're just going to reserve this big pot of money. Maybe we need it, maybe we don't. We're going to monitor it day by day, week by week, to make sure that these dollars are used most effectively for those who are in need. And we're also going to do it based on facts on the ground. When we learn more about the amount of money that's being transferred to the Guard, that could inform our decisions instead of just picking a number out of the sky. What we've tried to do is think about the need for people to make sure that folks are getting the food that they need. And I feel really good that we've been doing that. But as circumstances arise, we'll continue to evaluate, and we're not going to let people get hungry. Ma'am, what media outlet are you from?
I'm sorry, I'll introduce you to John Sixlolly.
Okay.
Apologies.
How many do you have here today? Hey, this is a big media conglomerate.
Just two. Sorry, apologize in advance. This is not a SNAP-related question. But you were among the governors who announced and participated in a conference held in Philadelphia in September to explore options to protect electricity consumers in PJM. However, you were not among the 11 governors who announced who were part of the bipartisan effort to increase representation of their states in PJM, as well as allow them to collaboratively address issues related to grid governance, energy affordability, and market reform. What was the rationale for participating in the conference but not the PJM Governors Collaborative?
So I can say this: we are very closely monitoring all of the activities within PGM. And as you may know, for our announcement a number of weeks ago, we plan to have significant expansions of our energy production and usage. We're trying to have our 50 by 50 plan. That's a central part of PGM's needs for the future. So we know that West Virginia is going to play a very strong, if not dominant role within PGM because we have the ability to provide the energy resources and turn that into the electricity we need to become an even greater exporter of electricity. So we're watching all these issues very carefully so we could protect consumers, but also maximize the economic benefit for our citizens. So I can't speak to why someone was at an event or not at an event. I can tell you, though, we are very much on top of all the PGM issues, and we know that they've talked about the need for 110 gigawatts of power by 2050, and that's part of the reason why I announced the 50 by 50 plan to get a lot more energy usage, and we want to do that in a way that's going to protect consumers because a lot of people are hurting. They know about the high price of power, and we have to be able to address that. That's part of the reason why when we put together our data center bill earlier this year, you can see that the cost of producing those data centers is not going to be passed on to the consumers. That's a really big deal, and I think that's a signal of what we're trying to do to protect West Virginians from the high price of electricity. So I am familiar with what's going on, but we're also evaluating because I think West Virginia is a very strong player within PJM, and there's a lot that I'd like to do. So sometimes you approach things strategically in order to put your citizens and your state first, and that's certainly what we're doing in our relationship with the other states and with PJM. So thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, so after these evaluations in 1 or 2 days, it is determined that the 14 million is not enough. How quickly could we see lawmakers get called back to the Capitol for a special session? And do you anticipate this sole focus being on food systems, or do you think other issues could come up?
So I will say that I have talked to the leadership of the House and of the Senate, and I think that their comments have been very positive, that they could move very quickly. I told them that we would not be afraid to call them if we need to. So I think that we could call them back and get them here within a couple of days if we need to. But at the same time, I want to do it and know that if we're fronting the money the way we are now and we're ahead of the curve in the need, then there's no reason. You don't want to waste taxpayer money by calling people if you have the resources. So we're going to keep evaluating. We'll know more tomorrow. We'll know more Thursday. And then obviously when we get to weekends, that's important to always front things through weekends. So because the banks aren't open on weekends to transfer resources, right? So we'll have additional information probably to share Wednesday, Thursday, maybe later in the week. But I know that we've received positive feedback on having a positive response if we call them in. Now, we've only talked about the SNAP-related issues, so I think that's the focus right now. But if other issues come up, I'm sure that that's a possibility.
This might be a bit in the weeds, so if you can't answer it now, it's okay. But I just want to know, would PAC be involved in communicating with Fidelity about this change in like the SNAP structure for the 50%? Because our PAC system that we use to enroll people in the SNAP has had a lot of issues in the past. So I'm just wondering, like in your meeting, it seems like you just talked to DOHS, are they feeling confident that our technology can handle this new math equation they have to do to get these benefits out?
Well, so I can't speak to the 50% piece and how that would go because we just got the memo this morning. So I will say I think I ran into Stephen on the way, and from the time I ran into Stephen, I came out the door, there was a memo, right? So our human services unpacking that. So I will say this, our folks are working really hard to make sure that we do everything that we control on our end to move things fast. So I think that to the extent that there's the capacity, we'll do it. I can't speak to any issues that may arise within PATH or other programs, but I know that I've asked my team to be on top of this to make sure that not only the traditional methods of communication, but others are put out there so that people know when things are happening, when the card may be loaded, what the situation is about the delay. That's important. So communication is really important. That's why I'm coming before you to hopefully get more of this information also communicated to the public and still ask and emphasize the need for donations because we're going to the point where people may assume that everything's ready, but there's a delay, and we don't want people to be hungry because there's some delay in the money. So we're happy to follow up with you on some additional details. If you have questions, you can let our team know. But I feel good that our team is on top of this. Where are you from? What's your name?
Aaron Parker, I'm with Metro News in Charleston.
Hey, Aaron. Nice to see you.
You
I love to see Metro News joining us. Thank you.
You talked about being in contact with 211 officials. Do you have any kind of estimate on how many residents have been using 211 over the last few days, and what does that process look like from your office?
Yeah, so I know through the weekend we were at about 600 calls. I don't know, General, if you have any update from yesterday?
We didn't get an update yesterday, Governor, but I was told that the 300 or 300 to 400 a day, Saturday and Sunday, continued yesterday.
Okay.
I didn't get a specific number.
So there you go. I think that's consistent. So we want to make sure people avail themselves of it. My sense is that people don't always know that they have these tools available. That's why I'm always grateful that you're willing to get that information out, because an informed citizenry obviously takes advantage of the resources available. So appreciate you asking that question. Any other questions from the media? Well, I want to say thank you. Once again, grateful for your hospitality. And we're going to continue to work and partner with everyone. This is important that we get this right. But I want to thank our entire team and also some of the people in the governor's office, Jamie and Wolford, and others who are working really hard to try to make this happen the right way. So we're on top of it. We're going to have the resources we need. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We deal in facts here as opposed to the fiction that sometimes comes from folks. So thank you for coming here today, and we'll see you very soon.